How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and welcome back for our latest Mets update segment, this time on February 10th, 2025. At the time of recording this one, right after the Super Bowl weekend, football season is done, and baseball is here to play, baby. Pitchers and catchers have officially started a report to Port St. Lucie, so we're going to hear from some key players like Francisco Alvarez stating that, yeah, the Mets might not only have the best lineup in the National League, but we're talking Major League Baseball. Okay, Alvy, hype me up, baby. Let's hear more on Alvarez. He took some hacks and looked great there at PSL. Some key pitchers there, Ryan Stanek, Griffin Canning, they spoke to the media today and had some BP, as was the case with Clay Holmes and others. So we're going to round out the key takeaways from Port St. Lucie today, along with Starling Marte. What is happening with this man? Is he going to be traded by the Mets? And if so, where could he be dealt? And for what exactly? That is what we'll get into in a potential Starling Marte trade proposal. And to round out the show, to wrap it all up, we'll get into the official Mets spring training roster. Has been revealed today. We'll get into what we like, maybe what we don't like about it, what could be added there, if anything, and everything in between. Thank you guys so much for smashing the like and subscribe button as your first chime in. It's greatly appreciated. Let me know your initial reactions to it all in the comments down below. And thank you guys as well for hearing from our amazing sponsor that plenty of you guys know here at BetUS that has you covered with all your sports betting needs. Head over to betus.com.pa today, folks, and use Wardy's promo code YouTube150. That way you too get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, a 200% bonus on your second and your third, up to $2,000 for whatever you want to bet on. And folks, we're doing a 3-leg NBA parlay. We got absolutely cooked with our NFL bet this past weekend. Not only did I have Chiefs money line, but I had the Knicks spread to make sure that they at least didn't get blown out by the Celtics the night prior. Nope. So we're going to try to rebound here with some more heavy favorites, and the Celtics money line, the San Antonio Spurs money line, and the obvious one, LA Lakers, as Luka Doncic makes his long-awaited, highly anticipated debut there for the Lake Show. AD's now down with injury for north of a month. I'm sorry, Mavericks fans. I digress. That is our parlay, folks, and it's a $30 bet that's hopefully going to win us double for 60 total, right around there. Feel free to tail this, but please know I'm not a betting expert. I'm just a diehard fan that loves to place daily bets here with our amazing friends at BetUS. So thank you guys so much for that as always. But now, folks, let's hop into this and let's get into our guy Alvy and his key remarks that he shared with the media today. And then from there, we'll talk a bit more on spring training. Then from there, pivot to Starling Marte trade opportunities and plenty more here in the show.
Is there anything in particular, Alvy, that you were looking to improve on this winter? As far as what you worked on, you mentioned you.
I think I'm working a lot in my mentally part. I think it's the more important. So my mind is going to be way stronger than last year. So I think this game is a mentally game. So I think that one is the cue for this year for me.
So I love the confidence right away with Alvarez. He has that kind of smirk smile on his face right away. He says, the mental game is key for me, and that confidence is key. And he says how it's pretty much a 180 from what it was this past season. So that's encouraging for Alvarez, who by all accounts was destined to have a massive sophomore year for the Mets in 2024, but sadly dealt with that thumb injury after rounding first base in that early series against the Dodgers. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember screaming at my TV like it was yesterday because I knew how detrimental that would be a nagging injury for the course of the year. Then Alvy forgot how to lift a baseball because of the batting mechanics there. We're working with Chavez versus working with his own personal group, and then him finally lifting the baseball better and then having a great run for us down there even in the postseason. Alvarez, who could easily give the Mets a 25 to 30 plus home run year, is looking uber confident right away to see what he can provide for what is a deep lineup, the deepest one he's ever been a part of yet for this Mets team as we head into the 162. Alvarez talks about his excitement working with Kodai Senga again this season.
And, Senga, you only got to see him a little bit last year. How anxious are you to get back working with him and see what he's doing?
I'm very happy he's healthy. I hear he's healthy, so I think it's going to be better than last year with Senga in the rotation. He's nasty, and he's going to help the team a lot.
Love that. And I will say, when I met Alvarez, because I was there at Amazing Day, both for media and from the fan perspective, and the fan perspective, I got the 2 signatures, but we didn't know who we were going to get to do the meet and greet and get signings of until after we got to the point of stopping to wait, the third line we were in or whatever it was, to walk past these black drapes, and we go in, it's Alvarez and Doc Gooden, at least for my girlfriend and I, which was really cool. Albie was very nice, very easy to talk to, and you can really tell that he's worked on his English a lot too, which has really impressed me, that I'm sure he's very happy about as well, the Venezuelan star in the making for this Mets team, and I'll damn stand by that, star in the making, absolutely. Alvarez, when talking about the Mets lineup.
Talked to you, we asked you about Soto impacting the lineup. Now you have Pete Alonso back too. What do you think of what this lineup can do, top to bottom now?
I think it's going to be a great lineup. I think we are the best lineup in the whole baseball. It's what I think. We have P, we have IOB and everything. We have power, we have hitting guys, we have power hitters, we have everything. So I think we are the best lineup in baseball. So we can fight with any team.
He's 100% accurate with that final line. Oh, he looks a little demonic there in high pause. I'm sorry, Alvy. Didn't mean to do you dirty there. He is right that the Mets will be able to fight with any team offensively, 1,000% this year. On the front of being the best offense in Major League Baseball, that is up for you guys to debate and to decide. Let me know in the comments down below how you guys feel on that front. If you guys do believe that the Mets have the best offense in Major League Baseball, if you feel that they are still trailing teams like the Dodgers, the Braves, maybe the Phillies to a degree, among others. I personally am in the category of the Mets are one of the top offenses in Major League Baseball, but they certainly need to prove more, as we see throughout the 162. So I love the confidence, Alvarez, and one thing that certainly is playing in his favor is that for the first time in my lifetime, I'm really witnessing, as a true diehard Mets fan, a lineup that has 6 to 7 batters in this lineup that can give you 25-plus home runs all year long, right? When you look at the start of things, if you're going to have Lindor, there's hopefully another 30 home run, 100 RBI, 30 stolen bag season or close to. When you look at the 2-hole, whoever it's going to be there, right? But we're just going to say Juan Soto for just the argument's sake at the moment. Putting Soto there, 35-plus home runs at minimum is what you're getting, right? Then you look after that. Let's say Alonso, even though he's likely going to be on the 4-hole. It's hard to envision otherwise. Alonso's going to give you another 35 to 45 home runs, right? Then you look at WardyNYM. Brennan just gets 150-plus games played, a good amount of reps, still dealing with the nagging plantar fasciitis. That's why I was getting so tongue-tied there. I can still see him getting in that 25 home run range. The power is looking great, and he himself looks unbelievably swole that we're seeing that spring training. Then you look at Mark Vientos in a full 162 after hitting 26 home runs in just over 100 games. I love the odds of Vientos being a 30-plus home run bat. Alvarez healthy, hopefully getting a good amount of reps this season. I think he's another 25, 30 home run bat. A platoon time between Marte and Winker or someone else, and Winker, should the Marte trade actually happen, I think you could still get 20-plus home runs at that DH position. That might be conservative. So pretty much out of what? Second base and the center field positions, excluding those, the Mets have 25-plus home run potential in every other category in this lineup. That's what makes them so exciting. That's why I'm on board with Alvarez's clear optimism and excitement to have Juan Soto in this lineup, and I just cannot wait to see these boys shimmying together. Come on, baby. February 22nd is the first game, I believe, that kickstarts spring training for them, right around there. I can't wait to see it happen. Alvarez, simple goal for the year?
For this year, personally.
What goal? Personally, win the World Series.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very good if I can win the World Series.
That would be pretty good.
I love it. No selfishness. This isn't like, I need to go out and be the best catcher in Major League Baseball. Obviously, he has those personal things in mind for himself, but I love that Alvarez's quick answers. Let's go and win the whole damn thing. Sign me up, Alvy. Hype me up. Love to see that. Guys, let me know your initial reactions to Francisco Alvarez from what we saw earlier today. We also saw him taking some hacks there that I'd like to show before I show more of some other players today. Here is Alvy a little bit earlier on top of what I showed you guys. All clips via SNY that many of you guys know already, but shout out to them for all the great work they continue to do in their spring training coverage. But yeah, Alvy's locked in. Look at those hacks. I can't wait. I'm so excited, guys. I really am. But all right, let's now pivot from talking about our guy Francisco Alvarez to talking about my guy that many of you guys know here on the platform, and that is going to be Yeah, Pat Ragazzo. Many of you guys know Pat. He's been doing a fantastic job covering the Mets on beat one affiliate with Sports Illustrated this offseason. And he's had a lot of scoops, including having the only public scoop that we know at this point, not only Starling Marte being a trade target, which Pat wasn't one of the initial people to report this months ago, but to be the first person to report an actual trade that fell through but wasn't negotiated, at least to a degree, between the Mets and the Kansas City Royals going back to the winter meetings. This had Starling Marte and the majority of his contract being eaten by the Mets in turn for a controllable reliever, Ryan Stanek type, in Hunter Harvey. Hunter Harvey, who, like Ryan Stanek, as a flamethrowing right-hander, a little bit younger, a little bit more controllable, so maybe a little bit more upside, but no less Hunter Harvey, who isn't as much of a surefire guaranteed thing as Ryan Stanek. I'm really glad that the Mets brought back Stanek, and we're going to talk about him after the Starling Marte discussion, because Stanek had some glowing remarks to share on the topic of Steve Cohen and the hospitality aspect of this Mets team, and really caring about more than just the player and the on-field product that we've alluded to a lot already in the platform. But it's great to hear returning players say those exact things and share the similar sentiment. But as we get into this on Starling Marte, a great read here from Pat. Pat goes on to break down on how the Mets should find themselves going down a trade route for either reliever Wandy Peralta or package him in a bigger deal for Peralta and Cease. Now, I'll tell you right away here, and again, guys, I won't spoil too much. Highly implore you guys to check out this article from Pat. I'll have it linked down below the description of this video. But he goes on to explain his reasoning for both the case of making a trade for just Marte for Wandy, or for something bigger where Marte's a part of a deal, which lands you still Cease Wandy, while also giving up some top prospect talent. Naturally is going to go along with it. As we know, reportedly, AJ Preller's been asking for 3 top 25 prospects. He was just asking for essentially that from the Orioles the past couple days. And from the Mets, you think guys like Brandon Sproat, Luis Angel Cunha, and Jet Williams right away. And obviously, we don't want to see those kids traded, even though that some of you guys are willing to stomach that for a Cease ace type, and I don't blame you for that. But we talked endlessly about Cease in recent days, so I really want to highlight the Wandy Peralta pros and cons. And does this at all make sense for this Mets team? Because it does to a degree, but I do see the cons as well. And I'm going to highlight all that right now for you guys. Wandy, let's start with the obvious, what we know regarding Wandy Peralta. The Mets were a finalist for Wandy Peralta an offseason ago before he went to the San Diego Padres. The Mets were in the mix with the New York Yankees, on the Yankees potentially bringing him back, among other teams, and Wandy ultimately signed with the Padres. Why? Because the Padres gave him a stupid contract offer where he has all the control on a multi-year basis. How so? Wandy Peralta still has 3 years left on his contract, making just over $4 million per year, but he has player options after each year. So Wandy initially signed this deal on a 4-year, $60 million deal or so. So really the AAV isn't bad, but it was more so on the term. Why are you doing this for a reliever? It's kind of unprecedented to do that for a guy of his caliber, who again is supposed to be more of your lefty specialist, has a lot of playoff pedigree during his time with the Yankees, and has had some lights out years with the Yankees. Let's not forget, but Wandy now is coming off of what was a very underwhelming first year there in San Diego with the Padres. And the unfortunate thing for Wandy is that it's hard to envision things getting all that much better for him with the Padres, even though I know that they do have a solid pitching lab there. Peralta this past season in just under 40 innings, a 3.99 ERA, but a 5.14 expected ERA. But that doesn't bother me nearly as much as the K to walk ratio, folks. He was only striking out guys at a 5.2 K per 9 to a 3 walks per 9. That's a god-awful, that's a horrendous, pardon my French, everybody. That is a really, really bad K to walk ratio. And when you look at just how bad that is, you're saying, okay, why would the Mets at all have an interest in this guy? And I'll tell you, Wandy Peralta makes a lot of sense because he doesn't need to be a strikeout guy. Why, you might ask, Gordy? The Mets were a finalist for Tim Hill, who would have been a fantastic, crafty, submarining, southpaw lefty option out of the bullpen. Instead, he goes back to the Yankees at roughly $3 million for a year with a 2026 mutual option, I believe. But Hill, who throws at most, 90 miles per hour on his fastball, he's not a guy that strikes out guys at all. He's one of the lowest K per 9s in Major League Baseball, but he's elite. He's elite on getting ground ball outs, especially, and that's where Wandy Peralta, again, is not known for being this guy that's going to strike you out at a ridiculous degree, but should be able to get you out on a good rate while not walking everyone and their mother. He's coming off of a season with the Yankees, his final year there, where he had a 5 walks per 9, but a more respectable K per 9, and he has a career sub-4 ERA. But Wandy, why he makes a lot of sense for this Mets team is because of one major reason. The Mets only have one true dominant option of a lefty in their bullpen, and that's AJ Minter. The rest is Danny Young, who had some solid moments last year as a crafty, very soft tossing southpaw, and Genesis Cabrera, who does have velocity to share, but similar here to Wandy Peralta, struggled in the K to walk ratio a lot this past season, wasn't striking out guys at all in his final year in Toronto, and does have good velocity, but it fluctuates. How is he going to look in spring training in the lab? That's a good question. Wandy's more of a certainty, and a guy who knows what it takes to win in New York, who's been in part of deep playoff runs, who's worked with Desi Driscoll, Mets now assistant pitching coach, going back to their time with the Yankees together, would rekindle that relationship with Clay Holmes, as well as Carlos Mendoza, Frankie Montas to a certain degree, because Frankie was only there for a cup of coffee, as we know, but would be rekindling those relationships. So we know David Stearns has had a point of emphasis on acquiring players who have succeeded in New York and know what it takes to win here. Wandy, I think, fits the bill. $4 million AAV is right around what Ryan Stanek's making. He's actually making, right to $400,000 to $500,000 less than Stanek this season. But you have another couple of years where he controls those opt-outs. So you still have another couple of year commitment there and Peralta, and I can see the Mets not loving that. But at $4 million AAV, I also don't hate that to go ahead and try to acquire. And turn then, if you trade Starling Marte, you eat the majority of Marte's contract. Here's how it works for the Mets, but here's how I also see some reservations and seeing, okay, I don't love this idea. So it's a couple things. One, we know that when we look at Wandy Peralta and his ability, he would be able to be that true lefty option in this bullpen to pair with AJ Minter, where AJ can really be more the high leverage guy in a setup role, regardless on if he's facing righties or lefties, batter wise. Whereas when you're putting in Wandy, you're having him in to mainly face left-handed batters, like key situations, but maybe aren't as high leverage, but are midway point of the game where could dictate some things in the flow of the game. That's where I want a guy. I want Wandy to replace what Danny Young is supposed to be. Simply put, who doesn't want a Wandy Peralta over a Danny Young or a Genesis Cabrera? I think I do right now. So how that works for the Mets right now is you bring him in to pair with AJ Minter. You have two true formidable options. Then with Danny Young and Genesis Cabrera on the outside looking in, should they be stashed in AAA or not elected for agency, depending on their contract status. We'll get to electing for agency and how that impacted the player here shortly, folks. But before we do, not only do you have Wandy and how that solidifies the bullpen, but then what you have for the other standpoint is, okay, it opens up a true route for Mark Canha, who the Mets did offer a non-guaranteed contract to recently. And for people wondering, why would the Mets bring Canha in? Because he hit for right around 280 this past season against left-handed pitching, with a 380 or so on base percentage, very, very good, and a north of 800 OPS. The slugging was just under 400. Not too much power with Mark, but again, over 20% better than the average batter in baseball. Mets don't hate the idea of Mark Canha as another outfield option. Also, a backup first base option where he played 50 games at first base last season, splitting time with both the Tigers and the San Francisco Giants. Mark Canha would be tremendous for the vibes, is great in platoon situations, gets hit by a lot of pitches, so he gets on base at a great clip naturally, has a tremendous eye at the plate. I think would do wonders to be part of this great clubhouse the Mets have building in 2025. That becomes a greater reality if you trade Marte. Then you slot Canha in, at least for the time being, in that platoon DH role to face mainly left-handed pitching, with Jesse Winker mainly facing right-hand pitching. So what do? You potentially sacrifice a little bit more power in the DH position because you're adding more true formidability in your bullpen. That is where I think it makes sense for this team. But here's where I see it not making sense. You're telling me you want to eat the majority of Starling Marte's contract to bring in another potentially 3 years of a Wandy Peralta, whose expected numbers are by no means favorable. It's stuff that the Mets absolutely can work with. I have the utmost confidence in their pitching lab, as you see this past season. Expected ERA and expected batting average, god-awful, just not good. 67th percentile there in fastball velocity, roughly 70% there. Average exit velocity below league average. Chase percentage, chef's kiss, among the league's best. Ground ball percentage, chef's kiss, among the league's best. So similar to Tim Hill, he's still a dog in getting the chase and getting the ground ball percentage, but wasn't able to get guys to swing and miss there on the whip percentage and K percentage at all. The ground ball percentage was elite. Hard hit percentage was way down. He got barreled hard big time. Barrel percentage was below league average. Walk percentage was just above league average. So Wandy Peralta and his changeup, sinker, slider, four-seam mix, the Mets can definitely work with that. But do the Mets really want to pay the north of $20 million owed to Starling Marte for the remainder of the year to salary dump him to a team that's still going to be in playoff position like the Padres, to bring in a guy like Wandy, who you're still going to eat his contract? So you're essentially paying $24 million this year, and then another $4+ million the next 2-3 years, potentially 2+ years on Wandy, and that's with no guarantee on how he's going to perform. That is where it makes a little sense to me, right? I think on the financial standpoint, the Mets are going to play start. It doesn't make too much sense, but here's where I could see making more sense. The Mets only maybe half of Marte's salary, like maybe not nearly as much as the full north of $20 million. And it makes a lot more sense as if you pair a guy like Marte in a bigger trade for Dylan Cease. That is where I think we have a greater discussion. The Mets are in need of an ace caliber starter. It wouldn't hurt for them to maximize on their trade value, that being the Padres and the rental starters, one of Kane or Cease. And Cease looks more than likely between the two to be dealt right now. Bring in Wandy as well. That would be chefs. It's already been a slam dunk offseason, but if you bring in Dylan Cease and you bring in Wandy Peralta, with Starling Marte being the most impactful current player that you're trading away other than top prospects, I mean, just bow down to David Stearns at that point. I don't know what else to do, right? But that's my thoughts on the Wandy Peralta stuff. I see the pros while also seeing the cons. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys would be in favor of pretty much a Marte and Wandy swap or of something greater, of greater proportions like a Dylan Cease deal. Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you guys so much for doing exactly that. Now, before we wrap this one up, everybody, let's get into our final topic of the day, and that has everything to do with the Mets roster officially being announced. But before we get there, I do just want to show a couple really cool things that we did see today as well there, just through the latest updates with Mets Port St. Lucie that we're going to keep you updated every single day, folks, even the days that we're going to be attending Port St. Lucie ourselves sometime in March, so be on the lookout for your guy Wardy there. Here is Jonathan, though, one of the Mets' top and truly high-rising pitching prospects, paired with a guy like Brandon Sproat and Nolan McLean. Over this past year, he looks absolutely good. And these new Mets road alternate away jerseys, as you guys can see, they have the New York font on them. I would love white piping. I think that these are white piping away from looking 10 times better than what they currently do. Same thing goes for the Mets black jerseys, but again, I digress. Simplicity is what MLB and Nike are going for more now with their looks. It doesn't mean it always works, but this is what they're doing, whether you like it or not. Love the design, love the font. I think we're just missing some white piping to really have this puppy pop, if you're not going to bring in gray in the font area, among other things. But again, looking good. Here we also have Jonathan striking out some batters today, so we're going to love to see that always. Oh yeah, Ton's going to have a big year. He was a major high riser, just like Brandon Sproat in the minor leagues yesterday. And now going from talking about the minor leagues, let's go into more on a veteran and how Ryan Stanek was truly brought in comfortable in ways that maybe he hasn't been with other teams.
What was it about the experience that made you want to come back? Because I remember when you first got here, you're kind of getting acclimated a little bit to the city and stuff like that. What made it so appealing to come back for you?
Just like the clubhouse and the vibe, and obviously the team is good, but like it was just they were really welcoming for me and my family, and like everything around. Like the baseball is the baseball. Like that's the easy part to like see. It's a lot of the stuff that like goes into the behind the scenes, like the quality of life things for families that matter for people with kids and stuff like that. That actually takes like a pretty a bigger weight than most people would assume. But yeah, like I said, they took great care of my family, and that meant a lot to me. And obviously, like the guys in the clubhouse were great, and have a lot of guys come back, so it was cool.
It's the hospitality for me. This goes back to the Juan Soto negotiation, along with north of $800+ million in total contract value. But seriously, we have seen this time and time again. The one commonality that players who have positively signed with the Mets under the Steve Cohen and Alex Cohen era have stayed the following. They have greatly appreciated how their family has been taken care of. Not only from trade deadline acquisitions that we've seen this, like Stanek, but also key free agent signings, whether they're the Marcanas of the world, whether they're the Max Scherzers, whether they are now the Juan Sotos of recent, the Francisco Lindors, obviously, from when he first touched down here, really goes to show how great of a job the Mets continue to do, and how much more of a desirable organization they continue to become, and how night and day it is already from how Steve Cohen first became owner when looking at how this team was orchestrated and really perceived in the public eye to how it is now. And as someone who's covered literally every step of the way in the Steve Cohen process since he's been announced as owner going back to October of 2020, I can tell you firsthand it's been a treat to watch, and I can't wait to see more of it. Here we got Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor walking together earlier today that we saw in Port St. Lucie. Look at Nimmo's, again, just arms, just freaking tree trunks, man. He's going to have a big 25-30 home run season for Brandon. He just got to stay healthy, baby. That's all we got to see. Anything else that we missed? Oh, also, Tim Haley, shout out to him. He's doing a great job covering the Mets through Newsday. He did state that because the Mets are bringing these road blues, they are getting rid of their Mets alternate home blues that they barely wore last year to begin with. That's fine. I wasn't ever a big lover of them to begin with. I actually like these better, and that's saying a lot because I think these are still missing a lot with the white piping not there. But let's get into the Mets official lineup that they announced earlier today. Let me pull it up for you guys. We also see Clay Holmes was throwing a bullpen to Alvy today, so you guys can see that. I was running that a little bit earlier too, but there you go, some nice clips. And Clay just looks freaking yoked. Clay's like 6'7", and dude, I think he's just going to be another absolute weapon in this rotation. Another towering starter. When we think about it, back to the older rotation Mets too, with DeGrom, Thor, Harvey, etc. I mean, they were all big guys then. It feels the same exact kind of vibe now. Same with Miguel too, because I met Miguel. He's like 6'7", 6'8". He's massive, like literally insane. And there he is with the new spring training hat. I like them. I like them with the Mr. Met on them. I think those look clean. We also saw Griffin Canning talking today, so we'll get to that real shortly. Brandon Nimmo taking hacks, which we always love to see. But Griffin Canning talking briefly on his role for the season.
You know, are you in the rotation? Are you competing for a spot?
I'm sure I'm competing for a spot. I feel like that's all you can ask. You know, I think competition brings out the best in guys. So, yeah, looking forward to just learning from Hef and some of these other guys and some of the other pitchers on the staff and just competing and having fun.
As of now, I would say Canning is going to be our 6 or 7 starter. People in Mets camp, Mike Puma, Anthony Tacoma, among others, have had early predictions, have kind of alluded to how they think Canning will crack that 6th rotation spot, barring changes, should the Mets acquire another starter, or should someone really break out of camp that we haven't talked about, with guys like Paul Blackburn and Tyler McGill, one of which probably battling out to be in the bullpen, while the other will be sent outright to AAA. But I do know that in the case of both Canning and Blackburn, but not in the case of McGill, given the amount of innings that they've already pitched in their major league career, they can veto being sent to the minor leagues, I believe. Unlike McGill would have to be sent down, but they could actually veto and be electing for agency, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the latest there in Griffin Canning. Nick Madrigal, who I hope is not going to be replacing Jose Iglesias, truthfully and selfishly I say that. He's taken some hacks there. Hopefully he can bat above the Mendoza line. That'd be amazing this year. Here's our king, our shiny knight, and what it's going to be orange and blue armor. Francisco MVP Lindor taking some hacks at spring training today too. He's locked in, ready for another big year for the Amazons. But let's see if I can find this lineup from earlier today. There we go. Here it is, everybody. All right, guys, so let's deep dive this lineup together, and then we're going to wrap up this elongated video for our latest Mets update segment. So it's kind of hard to see, so let me see if this will be better. There we go. I think we should all be good there now. All righty, folks. Okay, the list will be a little cut off, but we're going to read it together. So, out of the right-hand pitchers, we have Ty Adcock, who I remember him. He's had a sliver, like a cup of coffee with the Mets going back 2 years ago. Little to nothing last year. Adbert Alze, who the Mets picked up from the Chicago Cubs. He's rehabbing from surgery. He will not be pitching for the Mets much at all this year. Paul Blackburn coming back from the spinal fluid leak, but he's ramped up and ready to go. Oscar Brosban, who the Mets acquired like Paul Blackburn at the trade deadline. Brosban, who's really viewed as a key piece for this bullpen. I'm viewing him highly. You guys should too, as we look in him having a normal camp with the Mets versus being thrown in the fire at the trade deadline. Couldn't handle the expectations then. I think he will now. Jose Budo looking for another big year and hopefully not throwing meatballs in key games in the postseason, but a great year all across the board for Jose Budo, who solidified himself as a formidable bullpen piece should he not be a starter. Griffin Canning, who'll be utilized more in that swingman starter or reliever role. Chris Davinsky, who the Mets picked up in the early goings of this offseason as well, competing for a bullpen spot. Edwin Diaz, nothing to compete there. Rico Garcia competing for a pen spot. Reed Garrett working on his fastball more this spring, hoping to have another big year in 2025. Justin Hageman, another reliever the Mets picked up this offseason, he'll be competing for a pen spot, or at least over this past year. Dominic Campbell, he is actually the Mets 2022 pitcher of the year in the minor leagues. He's looking to just stay afloat as he was actually available in the Rule 5 draft, but he was not selected. His teammate at the time, though, was that being a former Mets pitching prospect. I'm blanking on his name right now. He's picked up by the Tampa Bay Rays, Mike Vassell. We have Kevin Herget, he'll be competing for a pen spot. Clay Holmes, he's now in the rotation. Tyler McGill competing for a rotation spot. Frankie Montas, he's in the rotation. Dano Nunez looking to be healthy after the injuries he suffered in the second half of 2024, where he really broke out of nowhere. Oliver Ortega competing for a bench spot. Sean Reed-Foley, same thing applies. Let's see, Yaxel Rios, who's been with the Mets over this past year, same applies. Kristen Scott still rehabbing from his adjusted Tommy John surgery. Kodai Sega looking healthy, looking ready to go. Brennan Sproat looking to compete for a rotation spot, even though he's on the outside looking in to begin the year at least. Ryan Stanek, bullpen. Blades Tidwell, going to be starting the year in AAA, just like Sproat more than likely. Austin Warren competing for a pen spot. Tyler Zuber competing for a pen spot. Mets acquired him from the Tampa Bay Rays in a smaller deal at the trade deadline last year. Then we look at the catchers. Alvy Parada, who has, this is a big, big hit or miss year for Parada. If he does not blossom in the minor leagues, the Mets could really cut ties with him, have him available for the Rule 5 draft next year and go from there. Jackson Reitz, Hayden Senger, who's been in the organization feels like forever. Louis Torrens, we love him. Chris Williams. Infielders, Luis Angel Cunha, Brett Beatty, Ryan Clifford, who will be starting the year in AAA more than likely. Luis de los Santos, who will not be starting the year with the Mets, obviously. Francisco Lindor, Nick Madrigal, Ronnie Mauricio looking for a healthy spring training to break out and hopefully break out with the Mets at some point in the season. Jeff McNeil, Joey Meneses, former Nats legend, if you know, you know, looking to crack a piece on this roster, but will likely start the year in AAA. Luke Ritter, same applies. He's like 28 now. He is not cracking a roster spot. Mark Vientos looking to bounce back off of a tremendous 26 home run campaign across 100 games or so this past year. Donovan Walton competing for a utility spot. Jet Williams looking to just make a name for himself there as he'll be starting the year in the minors. Jared Young trying to make a name for himself and compete for a utility spot. Jose Azocar trying to compete for a roster spot. He's just a speedy outfielder. That's it. Drew Gilbert, he'll be starting the year in AAA, but our top outfield prospect, Starling Marte, will he be traded or not? Brandon Nimmo, Rafael Ortega, who had a stint with the Mets back in 2023 after we trade some guys. Alex Ramirez, he actually stayed with the Mets after being exposed in the Rule 5 draft. Jose Siri, Juan Soto, Tyrone Taylor, and Jesse Winker, folks. And that is your spring training roster for 2025, everybody. Let me know your further thoughts on it in the comments down below. Who are you most excited to watch this spring training? And now the position battles that we look in the bullpen and the utility spot. Given the current guys that are on the roster, which ones do you think are going to break out and win those respective battles? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching. This is your guy, Wardy, signing out. Help us get at 32K subs, folks. Once we get there, we're giving away a Mets jersey of whatever player that's currently on the roster to one lucky subscriber that has just subscribed to the platform and is chiming into our live streams. I will do a giveaway in the future once we hit 32K on the platform. Thank you guys so much in advance. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.